to my sister, Minister Gomes, who told all my business today, to my mother who is here, Minister Feaster, to my sister who really could have just gave sermons today, Dr. Clears, God bless you, to the officers, members, and friends of Mount Zion Church, and officers, members, and friends of Metropolitan Church, my home church, and of course to Macedonia. Macedonia, will you please stand? We had 10 a.m. worship. We usually not in church this late, y'all. Wake myself up. Usually I'm out this time watching a football game and dozing asleep. But I said to Macedonia this morning that my brother moved his whole church service to Macedonia for my anniversary. And it was befitting that we would come back out and celebrate him for the second pastoral anniversary. So thank you, Macedonia, for coming. To my beautiful wife, Lady Amber, and our 4 children. And to my best friend, well, there's 4 of us, but we honor you today. To my best friend, Pastor Robinson, and my sister, Lady Robinson, who's wearing that hat, y'all. Those are my friends. We left Metropolitan together the same year and started pastoring together in the middle of a global pandemic. And for those that don't know, pastoring is hard. Ministry is difficult. I call him, text him every day. And he does the same for me because we're true friends. And we bounce things off of each other. There's been some things that Macedonia has experienced that Pastor Robinson helped me put together. And things that Mount Zion has experienced that I've helped him. That's what friends do. Friends are there. Friends are there for each other. So I know when I need a prayer, I can call Pastor Robinson or Reverend Giles or Deacon Don, and they'll go to God on my behalf. I'm excited for y'all. And 2 years has gone by very quickly. But look at what God has done in 2 years. I don't know what you did for God to bless you the way He's blessed you, but God has blessed you with Pastor and Lady Robinson. Can you help me celebrate that? Both of them love you so much. I'm happy that they are here with you. If you would, please journey with me to the Gospel of Matthew chapter 8. Matthew, the 8th chapter, beginning with verse 23. Matthew chapter 8, beginning with verse 23. There you will find these words. Then he got into the boat, and his disciples followed him. Suddenly a furious storm came up on the lake, so that the waves swept over the boat. But Jesus was sleeping. The disciples went and woke him, saying, "Lord, save us, we're going to drown." He replied, "You of little faith, why are you so afraid?" Then he got up and rebuked the winds and the waves, said, "Peace, be still." The men were amazed and asked, "What kind of man is this, Even the winds and the waves obey him. Briefly, I'd like to preach from this thought. He decided to spare my life. He decided to spare my life. The disciples have found themselves in quite the predicament. Jesus' ministry and popularity has grown and spread. He's been healing and providing relief for those in whom believed, relief from sickness, relief from pain, relief from spiritual bondage. And even those who didn't yet believe, he healed and allowed their miracles to be used as an example to them, to those around him, that he's in control. In this chapter alone, when he comes down from the mountain, he heals a man with leprosy who approached him for healing. Jesus reached out his hand and touched the man and said, "Be clean." And immediately he was cleaned of his leprosy. Then on another occasion in this chapter, chapter 8, when Jesus entered Capernaum, a centurion came to him asking for help because one of his servants lied at home paralyzed. Jesus said to him, "Shall I come and heal him?" The centurion, and understanding the magnitude and marvelousness of who he was talking to, replied, "Lord, I do not deserve to have you come under my roof, but if you just say the word, I know my servant will be healed." Then after some impartation to those listening, Jesus said to the centurion, "Go, let it be done just as you believed." And his centurion was healed because just one word from the master can turn your situation around. Then Jesus finds himself at Peter's house, and when he came into Peter's house, he saw Peter's mother-in-law lying in the bed with a fever. And when he enters the space where she is, she didn't touch him, but he simply touching her hand as our master healer made the fever leave her. Because just one touch from the master can turn your situation around. And she, just being healed, got up and understanding the majesty and magnificence of whom was in her presence, began to wait on him. She began to serve him because she understood what many of us forget, that the servant Lord calls on us to serve, especially after he's blessed us. And then that same day, when the evening came, many who were demon-possessed were brought to him, and he drove out their spirits with the word and healed all the sick, thus fulfilling the prophecy of Isaiah, that he took up our infirmities and bore our diseases. Proceeding Matthew 8 and through Matthew 8, we see Jesus using his ministry to be a blessing to those outside of the immediate group of his disciples. We see him changing the lives of the infirm and the sick and the captives and the cast aways, and thus due to proximity impacting the lives of those who witnessed it, including the disciples, as they too now have a testimony that Jesus has control over paralysis, and that Jesus now has control over demons, and that Jesus has control over sickness. But what they yet to see is how much Jesus has control over their own lives. For up until this point, all of Jesus' miracle signs and wonders have been done in the lives of large crowds, through the lives of believers, through the lives of onlookers and yet to be believers, and one-on-one interactions with lepers, and even through the cancellation of fevers and family members. But these disciples have yet to experience Jesus show up and show out in their own personal life. They've watched Jesus show his power and dominion and sovereignty in the lives of those around him, but yet they have experienced him for themselves. Because you do know, beloved, that it's one thing to see Jesus work through the lives of others, but it's something different to experience Jesus work in your own life. It's one thing to see Jesus shift and bless the lives of others, but it's a different experience when Jesus comes and blesses and shifts your life. It's one thing when Jesus heals the body of your friend, but it's another thing when he heals your body. It's one thing when Jesus holds up those around you and keeps them from collapsing, but it's something different when he holds you up and keeps you from crumbling. It's one thing when Jesus comes through and puts food on the table of your friends and family when they've lost a job. But what when Jesus comes through for you and keeps food on your table and keeps lights on in your house and keeps heat in your home? There's nothing like experiencing Jesus for yourself. There's nothing like having your own personal testimony where you can say it is no secret what my God can do. Because if he did it for my neighbor, I can testify. He'll sure not do it for you to turn and tell somebody, no can testify. I know he'll do it again. Give somebody a high five and he'll come through for you. You got to know it for yourself. You can't hitchhike your way to heaven. You got to know him for yourself. Now the disciples are about to experience Jesus for themselves. They get into a boat with Jesus, having entered into the boat from the shoreline of Capernaum with the desire to make their way across the Sea of Galilee. And while they're in the boat, a storm arises. Reverend Giles, it isn't really unusual for storms to rise over open waters. Even more so, it's not unusual for storms to rise on the Sea of Galilee. In fact, in this particular body of water, it's known that storms come out of nowhere. And while most storms are usual, there's something different about this storm. This storm is unusual. It seems to be more violent, more severe, more aggressive than the storms that they're used to. This storm seems to have an extra kick to it. This storm seems to have an extra punch to it. This storm seems to be a little bit more intentional. And to make matters worse, not only is there a storm raging, but in the middle of the storm, Jesus is asleep. Here you have the disciples who are doing everything they can to stay above water, to keep water out of the boat, to make sure they don't drown. And the one who could immediately end it is asleep on the boat. Can I suggest to you this morning that at any point, Jesus could have woke up from his sleep and calmed the storm. And in fact, he could have calmed the storm while he was asleep. But he didn't. And could it be maybe, just maybe, the reason he didn't calm the storm was because he needed them to get something that only a storm could bring? That while the Bible says Jesus was asleep, I would argue that he's only asleep because his humanistic side needed rest. But I would submit to you that Jesus being asleep in the middle of their storm had far more purpose and was part of a bigger plan. Could it be that maybe, just maybe, our Jesus is smarter than you think? And that his lack of participation in a storm doesn't always equate to a lack of his presence through a storm. Or in other words, just because I can't trace his control, that doesn't mean that I can't trust his connection, because Jesus is always with me wherever I go. Just because I can't trace his hand, that doesn't mean that I can't honor his heart. Just because it doesn't seem like he's there, that doesn't mean that he's really not there. And I would suggest to you that I believe that Jesus wasn't asleep to scare them, but I believe that Jesus was asleep to stress them. I believe that Jesus was just trying to show them that you in fact can handle and endure more than you think you can. That you are indeed stronger and more skilled and more tolerable to life's problems than you think you are. And while it would be easier for you to know that you'll be all right if I'm wide awake talking you through the storm, I want to show you that it can appear for me to be absent but really be present all at the same time. I mean, if you really think about it, could you have made it this far in your life if Jesus was absent from your journey? If you really think about it, would you have been blessed the way you've been blessed if Jesus wasn't walking with you every step of the way? I'm glad the songwriter says he walks with me and he talks with me and he tells me that I'm his own. Give somebody a high five and tell him he's right by my side. In fact, you may think the eviction notice, the job layoff, the infertility, the repossession, and the cancer would suggest that I'm absent, but I would suggest that even then I'm more present than I am when things are going well in your life, because I'm trying to show you that I've got to stretch you in order for you to grow in the capacity that you need so I can bless you the way I want to bless you. You pray to God, God, expand my coast, enlarge my territory. And so now he's trying to stretch you, and now you sit there tight and sedity like God hasn't done anything for you. Man, baby, you prayed for this. You prayed that God would use you. You prayed that God would make ways for you. You prayed that God would open doors for you. And so now he's trying to stretch you. But I'm glad to know that if he stretches stretching me, that means he still got his hand on me. And as long as he's got his hand on my life, I know everything will be all right. Get somebody high five and tell me it's going to be all right. He's trying to stretch you. He understands that your faith is too fragile. Your mind is too minute. Your mental is too pretty and mediocre. Your praise is too calm. And so he's trying to stretch you. And in order to stretch you, he's got to shake you. And the reason you keep getting shaken is because you're not allowing him to stretch. But if you will just wake up in your mind and say, Lord, use me until you use me up. Stretch me until I hit my limit. Bless me until I can't be blessed anymore. Because I know as long as you're satisfied, then I'll be satisfied. He is stretching. He's stretching you. He's not trying to hurt you. He's not trying to harm you. He's not trying to destroy you. He's trying to stretch you. Well, wait a minute. This stretching is interesting because Peter, Andrew, James, and John are all fishermen. They've all shaped their lives and earned their livelihoods by fishing on this lake. And they've all experienced the lake's sudden storms. Could it be that Jesus wanted to show them, the fishermen, that now that they were fishers of men, that sometimes ministry would be tough? That they'd be exposed to affliction and persecution and harsh circumstances in the very environments that they thought that they would be familiar with. And I've learned, my brother, that sometimes you can be afflicted and deal with harsh circumstances in familiar contexts when you're not trying to advance yourself, but trying to advance the gospel. That on this life's journey as a fisher of men, as a disciple of Jesus, Jesus is going to call you into some places to deal with some people and to do some things that you thought you had familiarity with, but he's trying to show you that even there, you must trust him. Because oftentimes when you are seeking to spread the gospel and carry out God's mission, oftentimes when God is stretching you, he's trying to stretch you for his glory. And so the disciples are on the boat and they're freaking out. Excuse my term. Because water is now coming into the boat and they're just trying to do everything they can to stay alive. And to make matters worse, Jesus is on the boat and he's asleep. And the Bible says that they went to him. Now some scholars argue that they went to him right away. That water came in and they ran to him. Then some scholars argue that no, they tried to get the water out themselves, and when that didn't work, then they went to him. And then other scholars suggest that they waited a long time before they went to him. But the good news this morning is that they went. And here's why that's important. It's important to know that regardless of what stage or phase you are in your life, Jesus is always available when you're ready to go. In fact, I'm glad I can serve a God who will receive me just as I am, where I am, and that I can always go to him when I'm dealing with life's problems. And the Bible says that they went. But that's not the shout. The shout is that they went and he got up. I promise I'm almost done. It'd be one thing if they went and he stayed asleep. Then I tell you, baby, you on your own. But the fact that they went and he got up, that tells me that no matter what I'm dealing with in my life, the God that I serve blessing. I'm amazed at the ways that he made.